protection of the communication channel. The feeling, the considered opinion being that these things basically meet that abstract definition for enhanced protection. And then in the implementation guidance, you would actually find a recommendation. Well, okay, then. I'm a MITRE employee. What am I supposed to use for enhanced channel protection? Well, we have PKI. And most of the time it actually works, surprise, surprise. And so the implementation guidance would say use the MITRE PKI for sending this stuff from your laptop over the internet to an employee at MITRE. Now, there might be more than one thing. I mean, it's perfectly possible that the implementation guidance could offer you several options. And so it says, and pick one. All of these are okay. We've determined all of these satisfy this definition, and so pick one. Maybe you strongly encrypt the email. Maybe you strongly encrypt the information in attachment. What have you. Okay, simpler example. Last example, integrity protection. Remember, I was talking about how this was proved really tricky for us, and you'll see why in a moment. So Tom has just gotten a PDA, he's gotten a Trio, or he's gotten a BlackBerry, or I don't know what. And it allows him to send and receive text-only messages. It doesn't support, fancy protocols, doesn't support HTTP or any of that stuff. Does he need to have a firewall or antivirus on this thing in order to connect to the MITRE network? Well, the complexity of information flow for that kind of device, a device that only deals with text, is low. It's not low, it's very low. And therefore, information filtering is not required and malicious code controls are not required. Now, you're going to say, well, hey, hang on a minute, what happened to the firewall? What happened to the antivirus? Well, remember, the framework is supposed to be technology neutral. We can't be talking about firewalls. We can't be talking about antivirus, at least not at the policy interpretation level. And so we were faced with this dilemma of trying to abstract up from a firewall. What is the abstract concept of a firewall? What is the abstract concept of antivirus? And what we came up with, for better or worse, was this notion of information filtering for the firewall. That is to say, a firewall is a technical mechanism for doing information filtering, and malicious code control for antivirus. That is, antivirus is a technical mechanism for doing malicious code control. It is a type of malicious code control. And so the answer is no to both. And so the answer to Tom is you don't have to worry about it. Of course, the fact of the matter is it may well be that such things aren't available for your device in any case. So it's a good thing that, in fact, you don't have to worry about it because you have very low information flow complexity, and therefore you don't need information filtering and you don't need malicious code controls. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a better sense of how this works in practice in terms of people actually figuring out what they're supposed to do. As I said, we're developing PROS policies to cover the vast majority, the most common cases, so people don't have to lay eyes on the nastiness, the nasty representation of the framework. Outside of that, they would probably consult with somebody who would consult with a member of the framework team, and we would do the machinations required to figure out, okay, well, let's see, yeah, that's what you need. Now, at one level, this is not rocket science, okay? It's a lot of tables, It's some principles, it's some properties, and it's a whole bunch of tables, all right? But the important thing is what all of this put together, structured the way it is, allows us to do. It's something that we couldn't do before, and that is to systematically comb through our information policy space to make sure that we're actually considering every scenario, or at least every scenario that's feasible or plausible. To know that we've sort of step by step gone through this, figured it out, and we figured out for each and every one of those scenarios, for each and every one of those combinations of drivers, what are the security requirements at an abstract level? What are the privacy requirements? What are the information sharing requirements? What are the information stewardship requirements? All of that is at an abstract level, which then maps onto this actually it's the other way around. The implementation guidance maps on to those abstract requirements. And so, and that's absolutely vital, because technology changes. It changes really fast. And if you build your technology into your policy, you're going to be changing your high-level policies really, really frequently. And if you have to go through anything like the consultation and approval chain that you have to go through at an organization like MITRE in order to get policy changes ratified, you don't want to be changing your high-level policy over and over and over and over again. And so the framework helps us draw that clean line between the policy in abstract terms and its requirements in abstract terms, and what you actually need to do in technical terms. And so technology changes, fine. The stuff in the implementation guidance can change, and it can change as fast as at least for the security requirements, it can change as fast as the people on the InfoSec committee can change it, because they own it. They own those requirements, those implementation requirements. But the rest of the information policy space can remain untouched, even though you're getting all of that technical advance, all of that technological change. And that is really important in a complex environment. So, people, feel free to ask questions. We've got a few minutes left. You may get a straight answer out of me, or I might tap dance. Depends on whether I know what I'm talking about or not.
Any questions?
They're just dazed.
I have one. And it's something that I think I may have seen an issue with this. Have you looked at information handling policies with respect to, for example, classified information? And how well does that match? I mean, are there things... And the reason I brought this up is because you had U.S. mail as a moderate risk. And yet, the way you were supposed to get classified information from one place to another is, classified paperwork from one place to another is registered U.S. mail. At least it used to be.
Well,
to what extent are there things that don't match some of the handling of the classified, and and what's your interpretation of this? Is this has anybody looked at it at any level of detail?
okay, I'm going to start tap dancing now. I don't know if that's still the case, and obviously it depends on what classification level you're talking about. However, well, let me say a couple things. First of all, no, we haven't looked at classified information. I mean, this was designed purely for MITRE's unclassified environment, precisely because, as you well know, there is lots and lots of very strict government guidance about how you handle classified information, and we don't have anything to say about it. Well, actually, we do, because Rich Graubart, who is one of the people on the framework team, basically wrote the InfoSec guidelines for the entire U.S. intelligence community. But be that as it may, officially, we don't get any say in it. Having said that, we are interested in sort of genericizing this thing, sort of providing a, if you will, a naked framework which sponsors we could help sponsors populate with their specific, to reflect their specific environment, their specific risk model,